you're playing 6 o'clock your time, it would be 11 o'clock Hawaii time when you play this game Saturday night. How concerned are you getting their legs back on Sunday and Monday and Tuesday?
Oh man, that's the biggest question there is. It's the next game. The game after is the one that we've thought a lot about because, like you said, we don't arrive home here until early Monday morning. So how do you come off a flight like that, a late game, a flight, and then still line up for the following weekend? I think we got Tennessee Tech that weekend, so that's been the biggest challenge. And how we get them back, the plan will have to be put together already, and it is. And so we're going to have to solidify that. We're going to have to be able. It'll be short practices. It will be, to the point. That week we'll have to make sure treat it like a Thursday night game. For some teams that play on Thursday night, is that we're going to have to turn that thing over that quickly because we're going to have to give our players probably Monday and Tuesday off, and can only practice Wednesday and Thursday to get ready for this Saturday game.
Did you have any conversations in the coaching ranks with players, the teams that have done this before?
Yeah, most guys I've talked to, it was their last game, so it didn't help. A lot of teams that go over there that are not within their league always schedule an open date after, or it's the last game of the season. So we're kind of on a little bit of an island ourselves here as far as trying to make this trip happen. So we've asked, and we've had guys go over there and kind of know what to expect. But at the same time, until you board a plane and go through that yourself, you really don't understand the process until you experience it. So we're just going to embrace it. Heck, once you get there, it'll be nice, but getting out there and getting back, that'll be a little more difficult.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for your time.
You bet.
Our next question comes from Bryce Miller of the Des Moines Register.
Hi, Mark. How are you?
Good, Bryce.
You were able to just briefly touch on Jake's comeback and being able to play in that Iowa game after the Iowa game, but now that you've had a week or two for that to kind of soak in, how improbable was that, and what did he have to do to make that happen in such a short time frame?
That was very improbable. I did not expect it at all. On August 2nd, we reported to camp August 3rd. On August 2nd, I worked him out just to see where he was so I could make the decision. And I wrote him off on that day. I figured that there was no way that he would make it. And just because of all the problems and setbacks he had had, and it just didn't look like anything was coming together for him. So it was very improbable. And then about 2 weeks out from that game, each day he got a little bit better. The trainer did an awesome job with him as far as taking him off. We were practicing. He was practicing in a different area, just doing rehab and doing things to strengthen the knee. And you'd watch him over on the hill. He'd be running the hill, limping up the hill. And each day he got a little bit better. And, he just strengthened that. And the time that he put in was unbelievable. And, to have him come back and for him to come to me before game day and say he's back, man, that was kind of the closer of it, because on game day during warm-up, I went, I go, are you ready to go? And he said, I'm back. So, and he was excited. So that was kind of the whole, kind of putting closure to a long process to get there.
You're in a unique situation. You got to consider it and process it as a coach, but in that moment, you're also a dad too. What was the dad part of your brain thinking when you didn't think you'd make it, and then when you knew that you did?
Well, that's a tough deal when you see anybody do it, but then when you're connected, when it's your son, it's even you see all the setback he had lived through with him. So it was very tough to see that, nothing was coming together for him. That's why I went so long before I made my decision that he wasn't going to be able to make it. So I held out as long as I could before I kind of even told my wife that, I don't think he's going to make it. I don't want to tell him that so he can keep trying, but I don't see it happening. So, and then to see him start getting stronger and stronger, and then to actually on that game day to see him play the way he did, it was a very gratifying moment, not as a coach, but as a parent to see. You just thank the good Lord that, he had the opportunity and somehow, some way he made it when game day came.
And the last thing, I just wanted to ask, I talked to Brett Lindester a little bit. He went through a kind of almost similarly improbable comeback, a very unique injury, long rehab, and he said that he and Jake spent a lot of time together. They're almost walking a parallel road trying to come back and be there for that Iowa game. What was the time that Jake and Brett shared, and how tough was it for Brett to come back?
Oh, it was very tough for Brett. I remember Brett when his happened right before the Iowa State game. a year ago, 2 days before we played him. He blows his pectoral tendon, and that was very sad because he trained so hard for that season, and then losing before even we played the first game. And he went through all that rehab, and where he had a huge setback was when they grafted a tendon, and then he got MRSA, and it ate the graft away. So he had to go back and do it again in November. And to see that really almost broke it. I mean, that was, if you can imagine going through that as a young man, that you get fixed and you're coming back, and then you find out that the graft didn't take. That was heartbreaking for him and for us to see him go through that. So, and then he got it redone about the same time Jake did, and when he broke his leg. And those two spent a ton of time in the training room. I mean, last spring, instead of working out with the team during spring ball, we took them up to the weight room together, and they did their circuit together up there, what they could do, because it was leg injuries, so they could do upper body stuff. So they trained a lot together. They worked out a lot together, and they sat in the training room a lot together. So it was very parallel to what they went through, just different injuries.
Well, thanks for the time. Safe trip. Best of luck.
All right. Thanks, Mike.
Our next question comes from Jim Sullivan of the Waterloo Courier.
Mark, yesterday you touched on a little bit on what you expect to see from Hawaii offensively. What you've been able to gather, what do you think they're going to do against you with their defense?
Well, I think they'll be very aggressive. They're very wide open on offense, and I think they're very wide open on defense. They're very, even through their special teams, everything they do is probably more of a spread type mentality. I mean, they come after you in every way, shape, and form. There's nothing that you would say is something that you see every day of the week. I mean, they run off 104 plays of offensive plays, so they get to play every 14 seconds off. On defensively, they're very aggressive. They attack you and come after you. And they do the same thing on special teams. They get they have a punter that punts with his left foot and his right foot. I mean, it's, to see them on TV and stuff. I mean, they're very athletic the way it looks to me, and they're very good. And they probably the biggest thing I see on them, as I watch them on the TV copy is, they're so they play so hard. I mean, they really play hard. So, and they play two great football teams, so they play really hard.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Coach, that was your final question. Thank you for your time, and good luck in Hawaii.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Let's get Mike Stanford of Indiana State. Sycamore's playing at Ball State this week. The game will be shown on ESPN 3. Sycamores are 1-1 after a big win against Tennessee Tech last weekend. Morning, Coach.
Good morning. How are we doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Let's talk about Ball State. Preview it for us, and then we'll open it up for some questions.
Okay. Well, first of all, just kind of going off our last game, it was great to get a win at home against Tennessee Tech and beat an Ohio Valley Conference team. And thought our team played well. I thought they responded well to the things we needed to improve on after the IU game. I think Mike Parrish played very well. And obviously, Gary Owens, who is newcomer of the week in the conference, had a great game, had the best receiving day since 1986 at Indiana State, and the third highest output by a receiver in Indiana State in history. So that was good. That was exciting. Huge game for us this week in state against Ball State in Muncie, Indiana. We have a lot of respect for Ball State. They're coming off a great year where they were 10-2 in the regular season, and a very impressive game, a 2-0 impressive game last week against Iowa, where Iowa had to score 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter to beat them. They have an excellent running back, and we just have a lot of respect for them. We're at the same time, we're looking forward to playing them. It's a state game for us. Great opportunity for us as far as recruiting in state and just the perception situation in our state for us.
Thank you, Coach. Let's go ahead and open up now for some questions for you. Coach Mike Stanford.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1 on your telephone keypad. Again, for questions, press star 1.
Coach, you
certainly have to be pleased with your offense, as you mentioned. Talk about the defense side of the ball. A lot of things happened last week for you defensively. And then we'll open it up for some follow-up questions.
I was very proud of our defense. We did not tackle well against Indiana the week before. We came back and tackled well and executed well and played disciplined defense. We held them at 63 yards rushing and 160 yards passing. I'm sorry, 160 total yards, just over 100 yards passing. And that was a real plus. Connor Underwood again had an excellent game. Created a lot of problems with his pass rush. Travis Starks had another interception. I think the exciting thing right now for us is that we are one of our goals or one of our plans. Our plan to win is to take care of the football and get turnovers. We were +2 on turnovers in the first game, +4 in this game. We got 1 interception from Travis Starks and 3 fumble recoveries, so we're +6, which is a real good thing, and we've got to keep that going.
Thanks, Coach. Doesn't appear there are any follow-up questions for you in the queue. Thanks for your time this morning. Good luck at Ball State.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Brock Stack of Illinois State is with us. The Redbirds opening up at home last week with a big win against Mississippi Valley State. Eastern Illinois ranks coming in this week, Coach. Good preview of Saturday's game. Eastern coming off the loss at home against Southern Illinois last week.
Well, I think it's a team that's very talented and has weapons on offense that can put you in a real bind defensively. Their defense is a destructive group that plays very, very hard and they're very solid in the kicking game. So a team that's used to winning, has great tradition, and is I think a very dangerous football team. This is a big rivalry game for both schools, so you can throw everything out what happened the week or two prior to this, and because you're going to get Eastern Illinois' best effort, no doubt. So we know what we're up against, and we're excited to play Saturday.
Thank you, Coach.
Coach, let's go ahead and open it up now for questions for you from the media. Coach Brock Stack.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Brian Nielsen of the Charleston Times-Courier.
Hi, Brock. Aren't you glad you only have to talk to me once a year instead of about twice a week like 20 years ago?
That's great to hear your voice, Brian.
Well, I think last year you called this game maybe the Street Fighters against the Quiche Eaters. At least that's what Eastern Illinois said. Do you think that still applies, or how do you guys look at that?
Well, I think we're a much tougher team than we have been in the past. I think we've had some very, very tough groups here. I think we're building on that culture. So hopefully we're improving on that image. But I think we're getting better each and every year. Last year was kind of we kind of retooled things. We kind of nice kind of a year of a transition. We lost some very good players for graduation off a very good team that went deep in the playoffs. So not that we wanted that to happen, and then we had some injuries that hit us crucial spots in preseason, and we weren't quite as good as we thought we were going to be, and we just couldn't get any kind of grip as we went through the season. Usually we're a team that kind of improves pretty well throughout the year, and last year it was hard to do that when we had different lineups each and every Saturday. So that's just part of our game. Things happen that way, but we moved on, and we've had a very good off season. We had a good opening win, but obviously the competition really picks up this week, and this is a very good team and a very good program, very proud program, and we know it's X-Fake. We know Eastern Illinois is very, very good, and always has had a great football tradition there. I know that better than anybody, I think.
Sounds like, while you weren't announcing your starter last week, you settled on Trey Roberson as your starter. In the Eastern Illinois, still playing two quarterbacks. How is it preparing for their two quarterbacks?
Well, every time you play against a two quarterback system, it's usually guys have certain things they do well, and you can tell that it's kind of the same thing with our scenario here. Our guys have some things they bring to the table that are different than the other, and you try to play that player's strengths. It's still very early in the season to get any type of tendencies on guys. It's hard to figure that out right now, but I'm sure they think that that one guy does one thing better than the other, and maybe a few things here and there. They bring something different to the table. Because if you're going to play two quarterbacks, that's why you do it, and it does change the tempo of the game, and sometimes, and so you have not played against this particular group right now. It's hard to say what's going to be like on game day, but watching tape, both players are very good, and they have they do things excellent, and they seem to play off each other very well, and I think it all starts with their front. Their offensive line is very athletic. I think it's one of the more athletic groups I've seen at Eastern in a while. They're very athletic, and I've been very impressed with them. And obviously the back is they have several very, very good backs and have a lot of weapons that can go out and catch the ball. So we're going to have our hands full trying to defend them, no matter who plays quarterback.
And for you, it looked like Trey played all through early, and then when the game's out of hand, you change strength. You're not really alternating like they do.
No, we don't do that. But Trey was our starter, and we go with our starter, and then brought Blake in the third quarter, and Blake played very well. I mean, he's had at least a one touchdown pass in my head too. I can't remember, but he played very well as well. He's much improved over a year ago. Obviously,
Our next question comes from Randy Reinhardt of the Bloomington Pentagraph.
Morning, Brock.
Good morning, Randy.
With the new coaching staff, do you see any particular differences with Eastern on defense?
They're very disruptive defensively. They have some things they do. They play 3 down and cause some issues there. Been very impressed with obviously impressed with their players and their system. I think like a lot of first-year staffs are still, figuring out what they can and can't do, and I'm sure they'll kind of whittle things down this week, and you see them kind of doing that and sticking to things they do very well. That's what a good staff does, and they may add a tweak here and there to try to keep you off your rhythm on offense. They're very disruptive on defense, and they play hard, and they try to flatten you out and make the ball go east and west, and I think that's a good place to start. They've always had very good athletes there and very tough kids. So we'll have our hands full offensively trying to crack it because I think they're very good on defense.
Thank you.
You bet.
Brock, that's your final question. Thank you for your time, and good luck against Eastern Illinois.
You bet, Mike. Have a good day.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Next to Bob Nielsen of Western Illinois. Western Illinois hosting Drake and Macomb this weekend. Morning, Coach.
Morning, Mike. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks.
Good.
Let's talk about Drake coming to town. Third game of the year. One against the Pioneer Football League, one against Big Ten, back to the Pioneer Football League again.
Drake
The Dick's Experienced team have been one of the best teams in the Pioneer League, probably within the last decade. They bring in 16 starters, return 16 starters from last year's team. So a lot of experience, well-coached team, a team that certainly we're going to have to do a lot of things right against on Saturday afternoon.
Thank you, Coach.
Let's open it up now for questions for you. Questions from the media, Coach Bob Nielsen.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Scott Holland of the McDonough Voice.
Morning, Coach.
Morning.
With the big emotional lead up to the Wisconsin game at Northwestern next week, I'm sure it's a big game that your guys have circled. How do you get the guys focused on this one and avoid kind of that trap game or that cliche trap game and make sure they're 100% ready for Drake on Saturday?
I don't think that's an issue. Our guys still have a lot to improve. We've got to use each week to get better. We played a pretty good half of football in the first half against Wisconsin, and then couldn't match that in the second half. Our guys came off the field very disappointed, and I think sometimes when you have a half like that or when you finish a game like that, the one thing you want to do is get right back on the field. And with the Drake game, using that as an opportunity for us to continue to work on the things that we need to work on, and we're going to be to play our best football of the year. I really think our team will be focused on that. I don't think that's a concern at all, Scott.
Thank you.
Again, to ask a question, press star 1.
Coach,
That was your only question this week. Thank you for your time this morning. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks.
Thanks, Bob. Next coach joining us is Dale Lennon of Southern Illinois. Let's salute. He's ranked number 14th in the nation in the coaches poll, 20th in the Sports Network poll, and hosting SEMO this week in Carbondale. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Mike.
Let's talk about SEMO, preview the game for us, and then we'll open it up for some questions for you.
Well, they're a good team. They had an extremely impressive first win. A little tough to evaluate that game. They've been overwhelmed. Missouri Baptist, and where you saw what they're capable of doing was what they did against Kansas University, and almost came back and won that game at the end. They have some playmakers that are extremely impressive, and I think with the new staff coming in, it's been a positive change for them, and they're playing some inspired football right now.
Thanks,
Coach. Let's open it up for questions for Coach Dale Lennon.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Jeff Kolpak of the Fargo Forum.
How important was it for the league to prove itself actually on the field instead of talking about it in these non-conference games?
Well, I think it's extremely important. Again, that's what's been used to justify not taking more than two Missouri Valley teams into the playoffs. So, the more non-conference success that the league has, the better it is for the league. So, that's where each program needs to be cheerleaders for each other. Just that we can make a good showing in the non-conference section, just so that does translate over to a few more Missouri Valley teams in the playoffs.
How about your program specifically?
Specifically for what?
Beating Eastern. That's something that I think has been trouble the last year or two.
Yeah, well, it's been battles. I mean, we've been right there last year, especially a double overtime, and Illinois had a pretty good football team, and but that's kind of been the knock against us. We've been knocking on the door and haven't found a way to get through the door. So it was a big game, a good game for us. We get to enjoy it for just a little bit, and now you got to move on because it's only the second game of the season, so you can't get too hung up on that. But that was a significant hurdle for us to get over.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yep, thanks, Jeff.
Dale, you talked about the new coaching staff at Southeast Missouri State. What are they doing differently based on what you've seen on film from last year?
Well, the previous staff, had the kind of the old option mentality that you saw with the University of Nebraska, and really pounded all pretty hard at you. Now this year's team has that capabilities, but it's a little more of a sprint type offense, kind of what you're seeing across the board here at the college level. So, they're going to use their playmakers, get them in open space, and that's what makes it difficult to defend, is that they do have a number of playmakers. That's what they came back on Kansas. I think they had 250 yards in the fourth quarter, to take their run at them, and they're just, they have some good talent on that team, and as they keep playing, they start to gel together, and I think they're just going to keep getting better as they get more experience together.
Coach, one last question for you. Doing a little research on the number of wins you've had on the road against ranked teams, and this is number 12 for the Salukis in the last 10 years. During the last few years, you've had quite a bunch. Mentality of the team heading off to a tough opponent and on the road against a ranked foe. Any different process for the team getting on that bus and headed on the road?
Well, I hear the numbers, and road games, we like road games. I think there's that coming together as a team to spend all your time together on the trip, and our confidence is pretty high when we're playing on the road. So, our challenge right now is trying to get that road success translated into home success, and we put a lot of effort this year in really trying to build the crowds up and make this an exciting game for people to come out and watch. So, hopefully we can start experiencing some of the success we've had on the road and start experiencing that at home.
You have a test this weekend against SEMO. Good luck against the Southeast Missouri State Ball Club, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, Mike. Thank you.
Thanks, Dale. We're waiting to get a hold of Coach Joe Glenn, and I think we might jump ahead in the schedule and come back to Coach. Coach John Stigmeyer is with us now. We're going to jump ahead to Stig, and then we'll jump back to Joe Glenn in just a moment and try to connect his line. South Dakota State ranked number 10 in the country and headed off to Southern Utah this week. Good morning, Coach. How are you?
Doing super, Mike. How are you?
Good, thank you. Let's talk about Southern Utah, another big guy opponent for the league. We've played him quite a bit this year, but so does South Dakota State. Talk about Southern Utah and your trip out there.
Well, good football team, good football program. Coach Lamb we've had a history with them, having been in the Great West, and they've made some great improvements, player-wise, facility-wise, and Coach Walsh from Poly, I said, well, who's good in your conference? First team he said Southern Utah. So very sound, good athletes, probably one of the teams that I've seen on film that are very consistent in what they do. So very, very limited errors or potential errors. So we're looking forward to the competition, but it's going to be tough.
Thanks. Let's go ahead and open it up now for some questions for you from the media. Coach, John Stigmeyer for questions.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Again, for questions, press star 1. Our first question comes from Jeff Kolpak of the Fargo Forum.
I'm going to ask Dale the same thing, but proving it on the field and non-conference for the Valley, your thoughts on that?
Say it again, Dale.
Oh, yeah, the Valley proving itself on the field and non-conference so far. What are your thoughts on that and what it does for the league?
Well, I think it surely maybe down the road if we continue to do it, and every week's different, but ideally it creates a better reputation when those guys get together and pick playoff teams. Because I don't care what they say, there's some subjectivity involved in that whole thing, and we as a league can clear that up by continuing to win against the Big Sky or Ohio Valley or whatever. So that's a positive, and I think, it proves what going into the league, how tough it's going to be. When you see our colleagues, if you will, beating some good teams around the nation.
Thanks.
You bet.
Our next question comes from Todd Hefferman of the Southern Illinois newspaper.
Hey, Coach, I'm sure you've been concerned with Southern Utah, but have you had a moment to think about, possibly tying the all-time coaching record and possibly becoming the school's all-time leading wins leader this year?
The only time I take for that is when you guys bring it up. It's a neat thing to be part of, and when I say that, as a football coach, there are so many people get involved in a program, assistants, players, ADs, and so it's fun to be part of potentially setting that record. And I'm honored, and I'm really want to give credit really to so many great mentors that I've had along the way. So it's fun, and it'll be fun when it happens.
Thanks.
One last question for you. Of course, you had to change your quarterback, and talk about his progress in his first game in 2/3.
I really think Zach Lujan, the guy that came in after Sumner went down, probably performed better at Missouri, the first one, when he didn't know he was going to play, than when he against Cal Poly. He made a couple errant throws in the Poly game, where in the Missouri game, he went out there and hit his first pass and completed 75% of them. So I don't think he relaxes. It's just a different environment. It's home. It should be easier, but it wasn't for him. We probably overloaded him offensively with plays, because I know we had some miscues in terms of communication. But those are things that coaches need to take responsibility for. So he's really a great competitor, and he's a very confident young man. So we expect great things out of him, and hopefully, Lord willing, Austin is able to come back maybe for the last 1 or 2 games.
With any luck, you'll be playing deep in December, maybe in January.
That would be a treat, but one game at a time, right?
Yep. Thank you, Coach. Let's go ahead and let you go. Appreciate your time this morning.
Hey, thanks for slipping me in. Take care.
Thanks, Dick. And we do have Coach Joe Glenn of South Dakota with us. South Dakota headed off to Montana to play the 4th-ranked Grizz. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Let's talk about Montana. Certainly a tough place to play, and against a team that's nationally ranked top 5 in both polls. Preview the game for us, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Yeah, if you haven't been there, it's perhaps the best SCS facility atmosphere in the United States. They've got it rolling. Stadium sits right at the base of Mount Sentinel, Big M on the mountain, and cut in between the Hellgate Canyon rolling in, the river running right along beside the stadium and the campus. It's a great setting for college football. It is loud. It'll be as loud as Dawson Stadium in Oregon. And they've got a good football team. I think they're ranked 5th in the nation, and certainly it'll be a challenge to go in there and get a victory, but that's the mission.
Thanks, Coach. Let's get to the questions now for you. Questions from the media for Coach Joe Glenn.
To ask Coach a question, press star, then the number 1 on your telephone keypad. Our first question comes from Jeremy Howick of the Yankton Media.
Joe, good morning.
Hi, Jeremy.
Game 3 of the season, I think you mentioned this the other day that it's tough to really evaluate things after Oregon and then William Penn. How excited are you to get out there and finally get a pretty good test of where you guys are?
Well, we're excited to go out every Saturday. So it isn't going to change how we prepare or how we feel about playing the game. Our alums, they all want to go to Oregon. And I wish they'd come to Vermilion. You know how I feel about that. But we're excited to play Montana. I've coached there for 10 years in 2 different stints. And got a million friends and a lot of feeling. I was on the staff that built the stadium there in the early 80s. Then got a chance to come back and coach in it. and Leighton later in my career. And so I got a real special place in my heart for university, for Missoula, the football program, and a lot of people involved in it. And but I think, it's like you're going up against a friend. They make you want to compete all that much harder, and I try and pass that on to my coaches and my team.
Okay, I guess then, what have you learned, I guess, with 2 games, 2 games under your belt?
Well, we learned that we lost our starting quarterback, and we're going through the same thing that John Siegelmeyer just talked about. He's putting a new quarterback in there, and he did go in and play. I'm talking about Ryan Sager now, our replacement. He went in at Oregon and drove the team about 70 yards. We didn't score, but pretty good effort. Late in the game after Kevin Earl was hurt, and then he came out and played this last Saturday, and I thought he really did a great job in his first college start. He not only threw the ball well, we missed about 3 balls that we really could have helped him with earlier in the game. One was tipped, and it went off our own hands into their hands, and that was his only interception, but he ended up throwing for 111 yards. And what didn't really surprise us, but he also carried the ball 11 times for 95 yards, and then sacks took him to 79, but he ran for 2 touchdowns, and he pinwheeled in the air, diving for a first down. I think he endeared himself to the crowd as he bounced right back up and turned it back to the huddle. And so we learned that we've got a quarterback that can play. He does have near the reps that Jordan Johnson has from the University of Montana, one of the greatest quarterbacks their school's ever had. But we've learned that we could play. We do some things with Oregon, and we've learned that just because we played a weaker team, that you still have to play hard and tough, and we had to do that, and in the end got a win over a Test William Penn team. But every game is a new game, and we will go out and fight and play as hard as we possibly can and see what leads us.
One more then for you, Joe. Defensive line, how are things looking there with some of those injuries?
I can't answer that. We practiced on Sunday, and really we don't add up. We go through, drill period and special teams and some intro to the new opponent. But then yesterday we took off, and we'll practice today in pads and see where we're at. We've got a few guys with nicks and dings and bruises from Saturday's game, and I'll know more after practice tonight regarding the health of our team.
Okay, sounds good. We'll catch up tomorrow then. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Our next question comes from Bill Spelt of the Missouri newspaper.
Coach, good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
Yeah, Trevor Beaumont had a real nice game against Montana last year. What do you like about his running style?
Well, he's a tough kid, and I've gotten to know Trevor a little bit since I've been here. He was in our first recruiting class. And you could put this guy at about any position on the field. He's a football player. He ran 25 times for 147 yards on him last year, and they were nationally ranked, 5.9 a carry and a touchdown. And then got his shoulder knocked down fairly late in the game, and he was injured for the rest of the season, but the ball came out. They picked it off in midair and ran for a touchdown. They scored twice in the last 6 minutes to beat us here in Vermilion last year, 31-27. And Trevor is a tough guy. He's a real tough guy, and he's hard to tackle. He's a fist fight when he's carrying the ball, and when he's healthy, he is a bruiser. He'll bring it. He's really strong, and I think he's faster than people would think. He's a 4'6" guy, weighs about 215, and it's a tough customer. So he's good out of the backfield catching the ball. So we're real high on Trevor. He didn't have the sidekick last year either. So I'm talking about it. We got all our backs back this year. And so Jasper Sanders is in there. He's healthy. as all of last year. He brings a little forward to the offense, and Jordan Roberts did that. Had a good year rushing as well as Trevor last year. He's healthy and running, and got a freshman named Corey Kilgore. So Trevor's got heavier backs. I think Trevor and Jasper Sanders both rushed for about 115 yards Saturday and both averaged somewhere around 6-7 yards a carry. So we're feeling pretty good about our running game, and probably will have to be able to run it a little bit till we get a quarterback speed on it.
I realize that you guys move on each week. You have to move on and study the next opponent. But you really had Montana behind the 8 ball last year. How long did that game stick with you in your mind?
Whenever I'm back in the Missoula area, we usually visit there once a year for sure. It's all they want to talk about. It's just really tough, really, really tough. Because we had played a great game. We had put a yard drop, and for the game to end in the last 6 minutes with a fumble recovery and a 98-yard kickoff, it just didn't seem right for our team to lose like that. So, but it tells you we're not good enough athletically. Last year we weren't, and we need to get better. We need more athletes on the field that can close the game down. You know, we went on the next couple of weeks and lost to Youngstown State about the same way. Shortly after that, we had another game in conference. And, we lost, again, very, very similar. This was becoming a little bit like that, that you just can't win this close games. And so we've got to produce wins when the game is close, and that's all there is to it.
Just one last question. Could you talk a little bit about your defense? What do you like about the way they're playing on that side of the ball?
Well, we went up against Oregon, and you can imagine what that was. And the speed of that game was so different, and the size of that game was so different that it's hard to evaluate our team against maybe the premier offense in all of college football. They did about the same thing to Michigan State's defense, so you might guess how good they are. So it's pretty hard to, and we're all new in the secondary. Then we go up against a team that's a triple option heavy team, and hard to evaluate our kids in the secondary again. So I think this time with the talent level the same, or, at least we're recruiting out of the same pool of people, we hope to match up with Montana. The kid that went for 3 touchdowns on us last year, Ellis Henderson, is back. Jordan Johnson, one of the best quarterbacks in all of our division, is back for his senior year. We've got another kid that's tore up Saturday, had 3 touchdowns, and Trayvon Van. So our defense will be challenged. We're awful young, and we've been beat up in the defensive line. I looked out last week, and we had 3 true freshmen on the field in the defensive line with their hand down. So we've got to get some guys well, and I won't know until tomorrow night perhaps, whether or not any of the upper-class defensive linemen that didn't play after, or a couple haven't played since the season started, and another guy was put at Oregon and got a hip pointer, and another guy hasn't played yet who's trying to get healthy. And, so we got some guys that just can't get them in the cases.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
Coach, that was your last question. Thank you for your time. Good luck in Missoula.
Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Joe. We're joined now by Chris Kleiman of North Dakota State. The Bison ranked number 1 in both polls and hosting Incarnate Ward in their home opener this weekend. Good morning, Coach.
Good morning, Mike.
A normal Saturday in Fargo this weekend. What's going on there?
It'll be crazy, and I think it starts tomorrow. So a lot of distractions, but hopefully we can just focus on the task at hand.
Congratulations on earning that opportunity. Let's get next to the questions for you. Questions for Coach Chris Kleiman.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Again, for questions, press star 1.
Coach, what can you tell us about Incarnate Word? Of course, they're in the Southland Conference, a transitional team, a Division I FBS program, but talk about Incarnate Word and what they offer this weekend.
Well, they've got really good athletes on both sides of the ball, and like you said, they're from the Southland Conference. Our league has done such a great job early in the season of winning these non-conference games against some of the conferences that have gotten more teams in the playoffs. I know that TA got a big win against Southland Conference against Northwestern State, and we got a couple last week against the Big Sky. And we've got to keep holding serve. We've got to keep winning these games, all of us in our league, so that when the committee does come together, they can get another Valley team or two in. So for us, we've got to continue to improve, but they'll have some really good athletes and some speed from down in Texas, and I'd assume that they'll try to challenge us on our perimeter, and so we'll have our hands full, and we've got to improve a little bit off of last week.
Certainly defense last week is a big part in your win. Their Carlton John had a tremendous game, named National Player of the Week by one publication. Talk about your defense, and then we'll cycle back to some questions.
You bet. Our defense played exceptionally well. We only gave up 7 points. They moved the football against us. Weaver did, but we were able to do a good job in the red zone, and then we created the one turnover that got us a touchdown, that got us up before half, and then on the fake field goal, Carlton made a great play in tackling the guy right before the end zone to keep him out of there. But we're playing some young guys, especially on the defensive line, and those kids are really progressing, and I'm really pleased with early season how we're playing on defense.
Chris, no questions in the queue for you. Thank you for your time, and good luck against Incarnate Word this weekend.
You bet. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Next coach joining us is Terry Allen of Missouri State. The Bears, like North Dakota State, opening at home this weekend for the first time this season after playing 2 road games at Northwestern State and Oklahoma State last week. Morning, Coach.
Good morning, Mike.
TA, tell us a little bit about North Dakota. They are from the Big Sky, and we were playing the Big Sky a lot this year as a league, but your first dabble with the Big Sky in North Dakota this weekend.
Sure. Bubba's up there, obviously, coming from having been there and being down with Dale, so they do a lot of things very similar to Southern Illinois does defensively. They're a young team. They really scrapped and fought to get the victory last week. We're excited about opening in our basically stadium. That's the big thing, Mike. It's a big week for us also.
Thank you, Coach. Let's open it up now for some questions for you. Questions for Coach Terry Allen.
To ask Coach a question, press star 1. Our first question comes from Jeff Kolpak of the Fargo Forum.
Hey, Terry, what does the new stadium say about the commitment, I think, to your football program?
Well, it's huge for it, Jeff. Obviously, we're behind in that area, but the neat thing about it, Jeff, that people don't understand is that our students voted for this. Our students put a $50 fee on themselves in order to enhance the athletic facility on our campus and some recreation. So it's a commitment by the students. Hopefully we can uphold our end of it and get some small victories.
How much better is it, you think, in general than what you had before?
So on a scale of 1 to 10, it's a 10 compared to what it was. They really did a nice job. They tore out the whole east side, put in a freestanding structure over there that's very nice, very steep, moved the field basically 9 yards closer to the west side, took the track out, took the soccer field out. It's a football stadium now.
And so no more track, right?
No more track. No more track. It's very nice.
Okay, thanks.
You bet.
Our next question comes from Jack Michaels of the University of Nebraska.
Actually, from Fargo at 740 the fan. Sorry about that. Hi, Gary. How you doing?
Doing well, thanks.
Hey, a couple of things we'll use for our broadcast for Saturday's game with North Dakota. Talk about a couple of road games to start the year, Terry, and coming out facing obviously an FBS team. Talk about some of the positives you've pulled out so far after 2 games.
Well, we played an awful lot of people. I think we're playing well offensively. We haven't started either of the games very well offensively, but in each of those games we've gotten over 20 first downs. It's tough to do against a team such as Oklahoma State. Defensively, we've got a lot of new faces out there. We played a bunch of freshmen. I think that last Saturday was very valuable. It's very true.
some personnel. Burton has put a couple of good games back, staying with the offense there, and a number of upperclassmen on that O-line. Talk a little bit about the progression of that offense.
Well, we feel good about the offensive line. We have 3 preseason all-conference players up there, so we rely on them to protect the quarterback and allow us to rush the football. But Burton's a very good receiver. He's got, I think, 3 touchdowns for us, but he's definitely a deep threat. But offensively, we have to maintain the football because we're young on defense.
You look at this game with North Dakota, and you already mentioned that Bubba will have that flavor of Southern Illinois with him, but a young squad that North Dakota is bringing in, trying to find its own identity. What kind of ball game do you expect? Because as you talked about your home opener, guys kind of amped up versus Bubba's young team with, maybe not expected to win. Talk a little bit about what kind of game might roll out.
Well, it'll be very disruptive defense. That's one of the things that type of defense does. And for us, we have to just not turn the football over, which we've done a good job with so far. And then we've got to contain the quarterback. And, they'll do a bunch of different things, formation-wise, motion-wise, but nothing we haven't seen, but there's something we have to be prepared for.
Outstanding. Terry, thanks for the time.
You bet.
Our next question comes from Jim Sullivan of the Waterloo Courier.
What's up, Sullivan?
Oh, hey, Northern Iowa is playing Hawaii this week, and the connection between the 2 schools is Stan Sheriff. You played for him and worked for him. Beyond what he did for the university, what could you tell people about Sheriff the man that they may not necessarily notice when they're reading his biography?
Stan the man, I think, is a good term for it. No disrespect for Stan the man down here, but he was a heck of a football coach, a visionary. Obviously, to get the Unidome when he did years past, but he was a tough son of a gun. He played college football. He was a 2-way player. Played in the NFL, center, middle linebacker, and that's what he was.
When was the last time you saw him?
Unfortunately, Mike, it was very close to when he passed, and then I was able to be in Hawaii at the funeral. So it's a long time ago, and it's wonderful memories.
Okay, thanks, T.A.
You bet, Sully.
Coach, that was your final question. Thank you for your time this morning, and good luck this weekend in your home opener.
Thank you very much. We'll see you, Mike.
Thanks, Coach. And this does wrap up our call this week. Look forward to seeing people on Saturday and talking to everybody next Tuesday.